You've just checked in to Sweet Success. Join me, Katie Cline, for exclusive conversations with hotel executives, hospitality leaders, and industry innovators. Together, we'll uncover the strategies and techniques these masters of hospitality relentlessly refine. Whether you're already in the industry or just starting out, tune in every week to unlock the secret to your sweet success. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sweet Success. I'm your host, Katie Cline, and today I am super excited to welcome Tom Marchant to the show. Tom is the co-founder of Black Tomato, the leading luxury tour operator, creating tailor-made, remarkable experiences for families, couples, groups, and solo travelers. Since it was launched in 2005, Tom has led the company's creative direction, product innovation, customer experience, marketing, and business development strategies. His obsession with innovation has helped the brand delight its travelers while scooping up some pretty big accolades along the way, including Condé Nast Traveler's Reader's Choice Award, Travel and Leisure's World's Best Tour Operator, and recently being named a Master of Luxury by Rob Report's Travel Masters Awards. He's a contributing writer for various prestigious publications, a sought-after public speaker, and a dad to two daughters. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Wow, thanks for all of that. And thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, firstly, I'm going to apologize for my American pronunciation of tomato. It, like most words, definitely sounds better in British English than it does in American English, but I won't insult you with my horrible attempt at an accent either. I know you've answered this question many times before, but for anyone who doesn't know much about Black Tomato, can you give us a brief overview of the company and share the famous story about how you and your co-founders chose the name?
Absolutely. And you mustn't apologize for saying, well, I'm not saying tomato, because I, having spent a lot of time in the States, regularly call it black tomato, but equally get laughed at when Americans hear an Englishman trying to say tomato differently. But I digress. Yes, and so as you touched upon in the opener, Black Tomato is it's a luxury travel company that specializes in creating truly remarkable travel experience around the world that are designed to inspire our clients and the people in the communities where our clients are traveling to. It still is a business I'm incredibly passionate about. It's been going for 19 years. We started it in London and have been fortunate to see our business grow all over the world. And we now have clients all over the world, traveling all over the world, particularly with a huge amount of our clients being in the United States. Our purpose really is what drives us. We just love introducing the world and ways to see the world and feel the world in different ways to our clients. And the passion to do that remains as strong as it was in the first day when me and my business partners thought there might be something in this travel business idea. So in terms of the name, it's funny, when we started the company, we wanted to have something that captured this idea of experiences. Experience is quite a word that's quite ubiquitous these days, but back 19, 20 years ago, it really wasn't. And we'd all been traveling and working abroad, in other jobs whilst we were kind of working out what the company that was going to become Black Tomato was going to be. And part of my travels took me to working in Russia in my early 20s. And having done some time there, it was a place that we would revisit as we were researching places that we could take travelers to. And obviously, it's a shame how much things have moved on since then in terms of people being able to travel, because it's still a remarkable country in many ways. But we would go to Moscow, where I'd been working. And one night, myself and my partners were in a restaurant, and on the menu was a black tomato. We asked a waiter, what is a black tomato? We'd never come across this before. And he gave a very passionate speech about it being this rare form of tomato. But when you find it, it gives you this incredible tasting experience. And that just really sort of stuck in our head. So when we were talking about what we wanted the company to be called, we landed on, well, why don't we aspire to be the Black Tomato of travel, offering these rare quality experiences? And it spoke to kind of who we were. I think a lot of people thought we had a bucket of colors and a bucket of vegetables and fruit and just kind of picked them out at random, but there's meaning behind it. And I think it gave us, it certainly provoked some intrigue when people heard the name and they wanted to know more. I think they, certainly doesn't say that it's a travel company, but when people got to know the reason behind it, some connection was established, and that certainly helped.
Yeah, storytelling right from the beginning. Did you guys order it that night at dinner?
We did, yes, we did. And it was great, and the thing, it'd be like, after that speech, if it wasn't, I think, yeah, we get a very different outcome. But no, it did. And it's funny then years later, I think you'd see them popping up in supermarkets in the UK, I remember,
Really?
and certainly the US. Now it's become this thing. But yeah, no, it's I remember it both fondly and also kind of with a fair degree of sadness because of what's changed over there and
Yeah.
the tragedy that's been unfolding in the Ukraine. But also there were some incredible times way back in the day that, a country like Russia brought. But anyway, time moves on and it's just a shame to see what's happened.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same. I got to go twice as well, and it was really, really fascinating. And you just hate to see
Yeah.
any part of the world not be open for sharing because
Yeah.
that's so much of what you guys do, right? Is how much we can open our minds to different people, different cultures, different places when we travel.
It's the elixir of life,
Yeah,
for us. It's a shame that's happened. But there are still so many other fantastic places that we can go and kind of immerse ourselves in to kind of get those hits and those feelings. So
absolutely.
that's exciting.
Absolutely. And the agency primarily serves high net worth and ultra high net worth clients. Do you see a difference between those two groups in terms of their preferences, their destinations that they want to visit? Or maybe if you're not seeing differences between them, do you see differences between them as a whole versus maybe less affluent travelers?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. I think the first thing is, there are many varied definitions of what constitutes high net worth
Sure.
and what constitutes ultra high net worth, and we've probably been in countless meetings where we've seen demographics sort of cut up in lots of different ways. I think, if you're looking at those two groups as we see it, I mean, firstly, they're all in a fortunate position where they may have some disposable income that will allow them to kind of really explore parts of the world that it might be expensive to get to.
Mhm.
I think often when people think just high net worth and ultra high net worth, it's always just sort of dripping in luxury, and it's all bells and whistles and gold plated this, and it's not always about that. It's actually about really getting far off the beaten track and into interiors and having experiences that sometimes just aren't that cheap to be able to put together
Right.
because it requires a lot of people, a lot of people moving things around and opening up places.
Yeah.
But I think they are fortunate that they're in a position where they can explore. I think if I was going to kind of make a distinction between, say, high net worth and ultra high net worth, I think ultra high net worth, there's probably in some regards, you see some differences around length of travel sometimes taken.
Right.
So they might go for longer, might base themselves
Yeah.
there. The degree of privacy or kind of access that they may need, not just for kind of when they're there, but kind of for things coming in and out,
Mhm.
whether it's people visiting or moving out.
Right.
And then there's some in terms of like taking places or getting access into some places that are for good reasons, not just being charged, not because people want to charge the earth, but requires, many different cogs to be turned to kind of make things happen.
Sure.
Sometimes that is in the wheelhouse of, people who would you'd be classifying as ultra high net worth. I think we we don't, you know, we've never set out to say we're only for high net worth, ultra high net worth.
Right.
And I want to be really clear on that.
Mhm.
When we started the company, our focus was actually just wanting to provide experiences for people that were curious
Really.
and had a thirst for exploring the world and experiences. Now, and that also means that we have lots of customers who might not call themselves, and also we don't within our company sit down and go, here's our high net worth, here's our ultra high net worth. We don't advise people that it's if you're a customer of Black Tomato, regardless of your worth,
Mhm.
we are going to treat you like the most valuable person in the world because
Yeah.
that's what you are to us as a customer. I think what we care about are people who have a similar outlook on wanting to explore this amazing planet Mars that we do. So exploring it with wonder, sensitivity, curiosity, and all the things we talked about a little bit earlier about how, you know, connected to cultures and bringing that back. So that's really kind of what defines our customer. And now what has happened as we've grown is that certainly some of the stuff we do just by, like I said, default might be priced higher because it's the kind of stuff, whether it's access or levels that
Sure.
is, it has to be that. But it's never been here's a red velvet rope and then you can have that come in. We're always been about, being accessible, being open, being welcome. If it doesn't work for us, we'll be open with you and vice versa.
Right.
So we have three values that we run our company around, which are being curious, thoughtful, and humble. And those two last ones, are being thoughtful and humble, are kind of just informs what I was saying there.
Yeah.
It's, you're open to chat to anyone. If you're curious about travel, if you're curious about seeing the world, come and have a chat with us
Yeah.
because we'll probably have some decent way together.
I love what you're saying there because I think when you hear high net worth, ultra high net worth, my head goes to private jets, right? Like that's what they want. But you're right. It's like actually some of these destinations, if you're someone who wants these far off the beaten track adventures, sometimes that does come at a premium. I think of, I was fortunate to go to Bhutan when I was working for Le
Mm.
Meridian, and that's a country, right? And I don't know how things have changed. It was probably 10, 15 years ago that I went, but there was a minimum amount that you had to pay per day for your lodging, for your driver, et cetera, that they, required that you had. And that was really the government's way, in my understanding, of making sure they weren't just attracting like the backpacker crowd that nearby
Yeah,
Nepal was, for example,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that really, I think, illustrates your point of, it's not about we're only working with these guys. It's just like the types of trips that maybe you guys gravitate towards tend to come with a little bit of a price tag.
Yeah, definitely. I always compare like this, one of the most magical things you can do is, head out into the depths of the Mongolian steppe and, and sleep under, a field of stars that you can read by. It's so bright, right?
Wow.
But sometimes to get to that place and get the camp set up and done this way, that's there's lots of people involved in that, and in a good way.
Yeah,
That's money going into communities in
absolutely.
these places, but there's infrastructure demonic, and that's so it doesn't. It's not something you can just do like a click of the fingers. Like it requires
Right.
crafting and thought and preparation,
Right.
and that obviously will add money. But I always say, and I stand by this, it has to be value. It
Yeah.
has to provide value for money. So we always will interrogate anything we're doing. Is that value to us? Will that be value to our beloved clients?
Mhm.
And luckily, that is something that we do stand by. We're not about just high price for high price's sake. It's like if it's high, it's going to be great value, and that means a lot to us.
Mm. The one constant in the travel industry, in your business, and really in any business is change. And Black Tomato to me seems uniquely good at innovation. I think a lot of that probably stems from you and your focus on it. How do you encourage that within your business, and what have you seen come out as a result of that?
Well, thank you. I mean, yeah, the kind of the need to innovate or keep moving forward, stay fresh, be
Yeah.
relevant, matter. There's always been like you know at the heart of the business. When myself and James Merritt, my partner, and Matt Smith started it, we didn't come from travel, right? So we were travelers. We loved to travel. That's what we basically wanted to keep doing. But we didn't like have a playbook that was, well, this is how it's been done, so we should always do like this.
Mhm.
And whilst that definitely presents challenges, in a way, it was good because we've got to look at things, the whole kind of blank space, approach. And so from the offset, we want to kind of keep this culture of creativity and asking questions, innovation, like coursing through the business, as we grow, as we bring people in. So how does that manifest itself in what we do now? Well, manifold, but a couple of things that I'll probably give good examples. Firstly, I talked about the values that we have earlier about being curious, humble, and thoughtful.
Mhm.
They inform everything we do in terms of how we develop products, how we develop campaigns, but most importantly, how we recruit, how we hire people. So I think if you want to have innovation in a company, if you want ideas to be flowing, it needs to come from within the company. It can't just be a top down like do this or I'm going to have ideas. As much as I like having ideas,
Right.
you've got to create this culture of everyone thinking that way and wants to contribute. So having values that you stand for and recruiting against them is crucial. And so when people are hired by Black Tomato, there is a really, really important interview where they will meet with our head of HR and they'll talk about the values. And almost like that part of the interview is probably more important than any of the technical abilities people might have. Because what that does is then you're bringing people into a company who have ideas or are curious. And we really do, I believe we do, encourage people, whatever level you're at, whatever you're doing, to share ideas and know that they'll be heard, right? And so it's really important culturally. I think you get innovation from a culture where people feel that they can be heard, they can be, rewarded, or like not rewarded by kind of that's great, but like celebrated,
Right.
good or bad.
Yeah.
And then, so that's sort of baked into the business, and there's lots of different channels for how those things are produced. But then, sort of on top of that, we have an innovation council, and that innovation council is a group of people from across the business, all from different areas, and we add to each year and we bring people in, and that group meets every couple of months, and the remit of that group is to look at what's happening within our company around product and service, but also outside of not just our company, but looking in travel, but also outside of travel.
Mm.
And what are we seeing out there that might kickstart an idea, or what are we not seeing out there that might prompt something? And They're really fascinating meetings. I love them. It's one of my favorite things. And we have, these clear agendas, and all these actions come out of them. So many ideas, and which some of them might have such a sense of urgency to them. We're like, right, we need to kind of get this idea going now because we think it's so powerful
Right.
and it's relevant and it's a bit zeitgeist. So we want to capitalize on what's happening. There'll be others which like, that's just a lovely idea, but we're going to put that aside for a rainy day. We think that's pretty evergreen.
Yeah.
But what it allows is this constant, not just lots and lots of ideas, but also digging into ideas. So we might have an innovation council where we say, right, that idea that came out last time, we really want to dig into it this time and break it down, pull it apart, and see what we get from it. And so many of our big product launches over the last few years, from See You in the Moment to Take Me on a Story, Get Lost, have come out of the Innovation
Yeah.
Council. And as well as that, that's where we discuss trends. That's where we look at kind of the future of not just Black Tomato, but the travel industry. And it's a really rich source of inspiration, I'd say. Yeah. And it's one thing to have the council. The other thing is like how you run it and make sure, people feel encouraged and heard again. But yeah, it's kind of one of the kind of cornerstones of why we can do what we do.
Yeah. I think it's so relevant for your customer, but it's also, as a publicist, you're creating new stories and new reasons for you to be in the media as well, which I think you guys are so good at. Can you talk a little bit about See You in the Moment and Take Me on a Story?
Yeah. I mean, so to, I'll start with Take Me on a Story because that was a bit before, and then we'll come to See You in the Moment.
Mhm.
So Take Me on a Story ultimately it's a product line, which is a series of trips that are inspired by classic children's literature. So if we took amazing stories and how could we turn those into trips, that families, children take together. So whether it be Alice in Wonderland or Arabian Nights or Journey to the Center of the Earth. And where that came from was we've always kind of been storytellers, and we've always loved right from the off the realization or the fact that you travel because of a love of other things, even if it's subconsciously.
Mm.
So you find yourself traveling because you read a book and it was set maybe in a place. It wasn't a guide to it, but you go there, where you might be listening to an album from your favorite band and they record in that place. So that
Yeah.
kind of puts that place in your head, there might be a new fashion line from a designer that's inspired by the place. So there's all these other kind of passions you have that subconsciously are kind of making you travel. So we've always looked at kind of how do we connect more strongly like those dots to kind of the travel thing. And so with literature, being such a phenomenal source, we'd always like the idea of like, how can we, not just some adult literature, but for children, right? And what happened then, so COVID arrived, as we all love, and it was just, it was a realization that there were thousands, probably millions of kids at home and families at home who couldn't leave the house, let alone the country, reading stories.
Mm.
And these stories became this source of escapism and and things to dream about and wonder about. And I saw that myself. And then we're like, well, why don't we start actually helping people, like, so when they can travel, perhaps take these stories and actually be able to go and do them. So it was picking up on something we'd always thought about, the literature connection, reacting to what was a really difficult situation, and hopefully providing some hope and inspiration to come out of that. So to Take Me on a Story launched with half a dozen beautiful stories. We've taken kids off on some absolutely amazing trips around the world. We're just launching a new one around Hercules and the Greek Odyssey. So, and it's a great way to keep learning going on family holidays.
Yeah.
So that was Taking the Story, that came out of Innovation Council. And then, See You in the Moment was, again, another product that came out of the Innovation Council. And the idea being that we don't do group travel in terms of, I think, some travel companies do group travel where you can buy a spot on a group trip.
Mhm.
And that's a great business. It's not our
Yeah.
business there. But we do a lot of private group travel. So, big family reunions, groups of friends going away. But what we kept zeroing in on is that there are certain things or moments that are exponentially better when enjoyed with other people
Mhm.
that you love, friends or family. And you really want to kind of travel for that moment, and it might be a brief moment. I think the Oxford Dictionary says a moment is 90 seconds, but we're kind of liberal with the use of the word moment. But it might be an incredible cultural event. It might be a journey together. It might be the mind-blowing meal. And so we went off and created and curated about kind of, 40 of the most amazing moments that can be had around the world as a group.
Mm.
And we categorized it according to, I think it's 5 categories. One was about the challenge that you could do together, take something. One was a journey, the meal, a celebration, and then the other one was the event. So we got these beautiful different ideas and moments. And then the key thing for Sue in the moment was also realizing that it was about coming together for this moment in time, but also being an antidote to some of those difficult group trips we've all done in the past, where after a few days of traveling with your loved ones, you all kind of hate each other. And actually this notion that everyone's got really excited about is like, I'm never going to do this again. So
Right.
we said, well, how can we get rid of that? So what See in the Moment does is it's all about a specific moment that you're going for, but in the build up to that, and after that, we will organize everyone's travel individually so they can have sort of the best of what they want to do in a country. So,
Wow.
we do the Palio in Siena. We have people going there, to enjoy the Palio from a private balcony and watch this incredible event. But in the days up to it, rather than everyone being sort of herded round according to one person's, itinerary or desires and sort of falling out with each other, you had some people going off and doing amazing like food tours. We had other people going off and finding some incredible, like, galleries, and just so you have these other things, and then you come together this moment in time and you leave. So it's like the best of group travel without the worst of group travel.
Yeah.
And also really big part of it was, like you say, savoring these moments with other people, make these moments far more powerful than if you're having them on your own, because you actually, part of the joy of savoring certain moments is seeing how other people are reacting to them too. So I love, say with my daughters, I might be watching a sunset that's blowing my mind,
Yeah.
but then I look and see their faces, and it's like,
Yeah.
and we sort of elevated that on a massive scale for Stu in the Moment. So yeah, we've been doing some incredible events and creating amazing moments, like meals up in the Norwegian fjords that people have traveled up on a boat, caught fish, tables out on these beautiful beaches, that you've traveled for this once in a lifetime meal,
Mm.
and you're sat there with 20 people all thinking the same thing, which is wow.
Yeah.
But you're in that moment. So yeah. So, and those are just 2 examples
Yeah.
that have come out of it, the Illumination Council. But we have lots going on there, and it's a source of real interest and joy to work on, to be honest.
Yeah. A sunset is such a good example too, because when you see a magical one and you try to take a photo of it, it never looks good in a picture. Maybe,
Right.
maybe unless you are an actual photographer, right? And that's one of those moments where when you're having one, you just want to put the phone away and enjoy the time with
That's it.
each other. And
Yeah.
I want to go back to See You in the Moment in a moment, in a
Sure.
90-second moment. But going first back to Take Me on a Story. Family
Mhm.
travel is a sector that continues to increase. It's also changing, of course. Is that a big portion of Black Tomato's business? And I imagine being a father yourself, that has inspired you. And what do you look for when you're planning your family holidays?
Yeah. I mean, yes. To your first question, part of the question rather, it's a very big part of our business, family travel.
Mm.
And I think that what's important is, we have, I'd say, over like 60+% of our business is family travel,
Wow.
and that could be from small families to big multi-generational families.
Hmm.
And actually, we have lots of families who will use us, both the big family trips, but then also kind of individual trips, say for mum and dad when they want to go away, or when the kids are like before college want to go off and have their thing. So we kind of become a constant companion to families as they're building out their travel plans.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because when we started the company, myself, my 2 partners, we were all in our mid-20s
Mm.
and didn't have kids,
Hmm.
and so we didn't go out and say, hey, look, we can do lots of family travel, because I just thought that would be slightly not misleading, but not kind of genuine to who we were.
Sure.
But if you like, but as we've grown, and we also have lots of amazing people that work for some families, the if you like the values and the philosophy in which we started Black Tomato, that hasn't changed. But what it's allowed us to take that into the family travel world as we've started to have families and say, well, how would we like to travel? I think if we come out there and said, hey, look, there's always great family travel, and someone said, what do you do with your kids? And we'd say, oh, we don't even have kids, not even married. It probably might not stack up as being that,
Authentic.
authentic or kind of trusted. But we do, we there's lots of families of Black Tomato now. And it's, and one of the reasons, I remember there's a good friend of mine in the industry who's a bit older, he's got a family. And when I got to know him at quite a young age. And he said, one of the joys of working in this industry is, you do get to kind of travel the world. And if you have a family, you do get to kind of introduce them to just some truly magical places and
Yeah.
have these experiences together.
Yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily my motivation for having a family, but it kind of, it's true. And actually it's something I thought about when I was young. I thought, wow, it'd be amazing if one day, if I was lucky enough to have kids, that I could introduce them to the world and open up. And I was lucky, my mother's from Finland,
Mm.
and she traveled a lot when she was younger. And she met my dad in the UK, and we were lucky that they were both very curious about the world. So we got to explore a lot. And so, so now I have, I have two young daughters, and probably, the greatest joy I have in terms of doing this work as well, and working in this world rather, is being able to introduce them to parts of the world and cultures and experiences, and just see them reacting to that.
Yeah.
And for me, that's very much about communities and sense of place. It's not, don't get me wrong, we're very lucky at Black Tomato because we work with fantastic hotels and yes, in some nice hotels, but for me, it's a hotel is beautiful, but it's about getting beyond the walls of those and going out and opening, their eyes and broadening their minds. And that just gives me so much excitement for going forward. So yes, families is our world.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that.
It's interesting too, what you're saying about the company almost evolving into family travel. I used to work for W Hotels for many years, and that was something that that brand saw as well. That's not a brand that was intended for family travel, right? That is a brand that was literally created because they were like, let's paint the walls black and turn the music up
Yeah.
and make the bar where you check in. And all of a sudden, there's huge consumer demand for it, which is pulling it up into the luxury space. But what they really saw was you had people who grew up with the W brand, who loved the W brand, would travel just because they opened a new location. And now those people were starting to have families, and they weren't necessarily
Well,
the people who wanted the big hotel with the kids club and pizza for every,
yeah,
they're people like
I totally.
yourselves who want to open the world to their children.
Well, that's it. I just couldn't agree more. And I think the thing, like, with that brand, it's like, but the brand's still true to what it is, right?
Right.
I think, like, if and there have been other companies who sort of pivoted quite drastically. Like, we're now about families, and it's almost like change their look and feel, change their philosophy. It's like,
Right.
well, no, like, we're we haven't changed in terms of our outlook, our passion, our curiosity, and this thirst to explore,
Yeah.
and our passion for that. And that's always going to be kind of the red thread going to the business. It's just that now we're really lucky that we get to bring families into that
Yeah.
world, and we still have, honeymooners
Yep.
or individuals, but it's just nice. But you say, it sees people growing up. We've got people who got engaged with us, then got married with us, then
Mhm.
had their baby moon with
Mhm.
us, and now you're doing their family holidays with
Right.
us. And that is, I mean, if you were to ask myself and my partners when we were kind of coming up with this idea and, bootstrapping this business out of a broom cupboard in Southwest London, that we'd have these people who've been on this journey with us and are not just customers or friends of ours, and we feel that we've been part of their really significant moments in their
Yeah.
lives. Yeah, couldn't have asked for that, or couldn't ask for any more than that. So just even have that alone is makes it all worthwhile.
I am also a mom to a 2-year-old girl, and I am
Brilliant.
wondering what I
Yeah.
some of the things that I said, "Oh, I'll never do that when I'm a parent," and I definitely find myself doing that now. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm wondering if there's anything that you thought like, "Oh, well, when I have kids, like, we're gonna do this X, Y, and Z," and you've been like, "I'm definitely not," or maybe I'm putting a pause in that, or have you been like, "Yeah, I can, go to Bhutan and Mongolia with the girls, and we're gonna be great."
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you mean. It's so funny. Every I think mostly every parent, when the judgment that pours out before you
Mhm.
have kids, and it's like, actually, welcome to the real world. I think until you have kids, you don't really understand, and it's not just for the kids; it's also kind of what you need as well when you
Right.
have kids. And I think so. I think where I sit with it is try to get a blend, right? Um, so I kind of like to do interesting things where we are going to places that are a bit unique and it's a bit different. But I'm definitely not the kind of, oh yeah, we'll just camp, we'll hitchhike, through Africa. That's because and I think you can do bits of that, but it's timing for everything, right?
Mhm.
And I want to encourage that curiosity. And I think hitchhiking through parts of the world be really fun at the right time. But I think also recognizing that going on holiday and actually going right for a holiday and a vacation, if you're working on the basis that everyone needs a
Mhm.
vacation, right? How do you ensure it so you have you have amazing times with the kids have amazing times, but also because we all know that when you're in the trenches at home and you're managing it all, sometimes going, well, if I'm just going to move this, but just to a different place, is that going to feel like much of that?
Right.
So actually, it's then finding that like if you go to places, are there kind of great experiences that the kids can do that this might be like put on by the local community that they
Mm.
can spend some time with, and that, or even the hotel, and
Mhm.
some people have kids, and there are some great kids clubs, by the way, out there, which I think,
Yeah.
not, I don't advocate putting kids into kids club all day. I don't think that's right, but a couple of hours, if they might want to go and do some
Yeah.
exploring, and that also then means that like parents can then maybe just have, an hour by the pool and just a bit of peace and quiet.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing, right? And I think because then you're getting a bit of relaxation, and then you get charged up again to go and like let the mayhem begin. So I think it's just, managing the different needs, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, the most important thing is being able to travel,
Mhm.
being able to see different parts of the world. And when you're in those places, making sure you're getting out beyond the property, whether that's a private house or hotel, and actually into the community. So we were in this year, we've been in, very lucky with the travel this year. We've been in Thailand with the girls, Morocco, Switzerland, we're in Ibiza recently. And all of those trips, it was really important that we went and spent time and got to introduce the girls to local
Mhm.
cultures. And so we did some amazing stuff in Morocco. We worked with a village up in the Atlas Mountains and a charity there called Al Fuki, who the charity is all about helping females in rural areas kind of get education and bring, you know, benefits to them. And there's a village which was sort of impacted by the Moroccan earthquake, and our company's been working with them to kind of build a new jeep there, which is going to bring some tourism in there. People can come and stay there. And when I went over with my girls, but there's lots of kids in the village,
Right.
which is amazing. But when one thing they don't really have much of is toys or stuff. There's just not much there.
Yeah.
And so I'd been there with the company earlier in the year. We'd done a big project out there. The whole of Black Tomato went out, and we spent a couple of days up in the Atlas Mountains working on building this jeep, and that was fantastic. To work on that regenerative travel side.
Yeah.
But then a couple of months later, I took my girls back out there, and we took a load of toys from London. We put a big suitcase together, took them over, and then the girls spent a morning in the village, like playing with the local kids there and bringing these toys to them, and just forming these really cute little friendships. And that, is different to anything you're going to get. So trying to incorporate things like that, I think, is good. And they still talk about it, like that specific thing they did, the toys and meeting the kids. Is like it's the best thing they've done all year, regardless of some of the other places they've been. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just think you got to, if you're lucky enough in the position, then you can create these opportunities to kind of open their minds to places. Then good, but also make sure that parents get some time to relax as well.
Yeah. If you're lucky enough and in a position, but you're also teaching your girls like how lucky they are and the value
Yeah,
and the appreciation of what they have and
yeah.
sharing that, right? That's such a beautiful story. Hey there, real estate lovers. Ever heard of Anywhere? I know you've seen their brands like Coldwell Banker and Century 21 on yard signs. Maybe even use their title, mortgage, or relocation companies. But listeners, Anywhere is way more than just buying and selling real estate. You can build a meaningful career with them too. They are an employer of choice in roles like brokerage management, operations, technology, marketing, and so many more impactful parts of the real estate transaction. Their hybrid workplace offers flexibility. Their national scale means offices everywhere. And their mix of businesses means you carve your own path. If you're curious how Anywhere empowers everyone's next move, visit www.anywhere.re.
It's so important. I
Yeah,
think, again, if your kids can travel, it's it's eye opening, and it is a great teaching opportunity
great.
about value. I
Right.
think that's the most important.
Absolutely. And to go back to see you in the moment, which, also is great for families, multi-generational families, or as you mentioned, groups
Mm,
of friends. What I really liked about what you said with that is there is this big culminating moment, but then leading up to and after, you're personalizing, right? And so there's kind of
mm,
subgroups that probably break off, but everyone's kind of getting to do what they want. And I feel like
mm.
personalization is one of those overused buzzwords, but I
Yeah,
really see it as very core to what you guys do, right? So, what are some
yeah.
examples of ways that you personalize travel for your clients? Whether it's in See You in the Moment or just in just general trips that you're booking for people.
God, I mean, there are so many.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a book to be written there. Funny, I've just read Unreasonable Hospitality, and it's funny because there's lots of stuff. You know, the way Will Guidall writes and the way he talks about it is so aligned with how we look at things
Yes.
at, you know, at BT. So when he's talking about like kind of improvised hospitality or the legend stuff, that, you know,
Yes.
and just so much of that is what we do at
Yeah.
Black Tomato. So it's all about understanding. So basically everything is personalized. So it's, but, and where it starts is really, it's understanding the client. You know, I often talk about this, like, it's as important to understand the client as it is to know a destination.
Hmm.
And this is the thing, because I think, you know, our job is to give our clients the most remarkable experience they're going to have. But for that to happen, it's not good enough to say, well, we know Iceland inside out, or we know Japan inside out. But if you don't really understand what makes that client tick, or kind of what their psyche is, or what their makeup is, then they could still have a terrible time,
Yeah.
because you've got to find something that works. And so part of that is the time we spend with our travel experts or our relationship managers with other clients, really getting them to understand who they are, not just when they travel, what matters at home, and getting a feel for that. And then that allows us to build in these moments of wonder and surprise and delight,
Sure.
and be one step ahead, and find intuitive stuff that not just surprises them, but blows their mind. And we've done, yeah, it's a constant focus. You know, it's a constant source. Every trip we put together has to have moments of surprise and delight in it. That, you know, that is a requisite
Yeah.
that we look to kind of create. So yeah, there's loads of stuff. I mean, I always talk about this one trip that I kind of, as an example of kind of things we do. God, there's so many, but, and this was some years ago, but it kind of, it still stuck. There is a guy, he's a philanthropist out of Canada, and he got in touch and said that he wanted to travel his own 7 wonders of the world. The things that he'd wanted to do growing up that he'd always been interested in doing, and he's in a position to do this travel. So we organized this trip around the world for him, and he did just some remarkable things that included, you know, he was fascinated by great white sharks, but rather than going and doing kind of a touristy cage diving, we went to spend a week with these leading marine biologists in South Africa, and really got to understand that world. There's a school in a slum in Calcutta, Delhi, that is renowned for taking, you know, children who've been born into poverty and giving these amazing education. And it's a charity, but it's never let anyone in there. Like, and he wanted to see it. And anyway, because of our connections, we got to get him in there,
Wow.
and he taught an afternoon of English to these kids, you know, and
Wow.
that's just something that hadn't been done. And then it culminated with, he had read, growing up, there was a book about Hiroshima, and I think it was from a survivor of Hiroshima, and this book had become like almost like a life manifest for this guy.
Hmm.
And so he wanted to go to Hiroshima and understand it. And we put him in touch with a leading academic and historian on that. And he spent 3 days just really getting into it. And anyway, the last day we said, you know, would you like to have dinner with your guide and academic tonight? I said, that'd be great. And he said, oh, is it okay if a friend of the guy joins? He said, yeah, of course. And so he sat down for dinner, and then in walks the guy who'd written the book.
Wow.
And we found the guy who'd written the book, and so it was this hero, and he had no idea, and it sort of blew his mind. But those, you know, we have hundreds of things like
Yeah.
that, and that's one of the best things. And again, it goes back to understanding, and we're all about trying to create the most amazing feelings within people, and the way you can do that is by understanding them, listening to things,
Sure.
getting tells, insight, you know, and then applying your kind of curious, you know, creative outlook to it.
Yeah.
And the stories that then flow around the company because of that are brilliant as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have goosebumps listening to that, or the British goose pimples, I think, right?
You know, we goosebumps, we goosebumps.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I really like what you're saying about needing to know your client as much as you know the destination. And that was actually going to be one of my questions for you is, you know, you do these tailor-made trips, but like, how exactly do you do that? Because if you had certain advisors who were specialized in certain areas of the world, I imagine sometimes you have clients coming to you and saying like, where should I go? Versus, you
Yeah,
know, having people that are specialized in types of clients. So how do you guys, like, what is the process on your
what
side?
do we
I
probably
imagine you have people in all parts of the world, but like, how does that process actually begin?
yeah. So in terms of you know, when people are getting in touch with the company and inquiries are coming in, yeah, it's often almost like a 50-50 split, where there'll be some someone saying, I really want to go to this place, this country. I've read about it and I'd like to do it with black tomato
Yeah.
and have you bring it to life in a really magical way. And then and we have teams of destination experts who cover. We then have people getting in touch quite often going, I don't know where I'd want to go, but I know how I want to feel. Right. And that's really interesting because
Yeah.
then you're kind of right. Okay, we can pay that. And then we have a team of people, our global travel advisors, who will have those conversations. So what they'll do is they'll start talking to them. They'll dig a bit deeper, understand what matters. Some people don't even know how they want to feel. They say, I need to get away.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what are you looking for? I don't know. Is this about a sense of escapism? Is it kind of wanting to immerse yourself? Do you want to challenge yourself? Do you want to get satisfied from doing something? Is it about being ahead of all that?
Mm.
And then out of those conversations, they'll then, on the back of that, get passed. There might be something that doesn't get passed on to relevant experts, but sometimes we'll pull together different ideas.
Right.
Across different destinations. And then we also have a whole team of our relationship managers who work with clients and families who've been kind of long-standing clients and families with us, who act as their one point of contact with the whole of Black Tomato. So it's almost like, extension of family, and they, talk to them the whole time. They understand what the travel plans are. They'll send them bits of inspiration. They can pick up the phone to them or message them at any time. And then they'll be getting in touch saying, hey, we're looking at this trip. Then our relationship managers will work with our travel experts and they'll bring them into those conversations. So we're basically set up to accommodate many different routes that people come into the business. At the heart of it is making sure that the people are listened to,
Mm.
but also alongside that, people do come to us, for inspiration and ideas. That's, when we started the company, we didn't want to be just a company that was just reacting to whatever the client wants to do,
Right.
because certain parts of the world we won't even go to or we wouldn't do, but we wanted to be the best of being bespoke, luxury, which is accommodating, listening, tailoring, delivering.
Mhm.
But alongside that, we also wanted to be about inspiring and challenging, perhaps, and giving them a different perspective on places,
Mm.
and even if they are going somewhere, giving them things they haven't thought about doing. So it's kind of I think it's a good blended approach, and that's part of our brand also, about being thoughtful, is we want to lead with some of the thinking around where you can go, how you can travel, and what you should be doing. I think we get a nice balance with our customers who come to us and really do want our opinion on
Mhm.
things. And that's also when we will be candid if it's not right for us. Or even with a customer we've been working with for a long time, if we know it's not right for them, we will say, look, we're not sure it's right for you,
Yeah.
and because that's important, not just to protect our brand, we care about the client.
Right.
And if they're saying, well, I really want to do it, then we can get into it.
Right.
But people do value us more for our honesty if we don't think it's right.
With the prevalence and almost democratization of technology, y-
Mm.
I think like experts may have predicted that people would be planning and booking every aspects of their trip on their own by now. But actually, what you're saying is, I think, probably why we're seeing such growth in the travel advisor sector right now, right? If you were just reacting, they could go punch in, I want to go here these days, this time, stay here. Okay, they can go do that themselves. But actually, you guys are having a dialogue there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I think you really are seeing I'm not just saying this, because it suits my company industry we're in, but seems to be a big swing back to people wanting to talk to genuine experts in
Mm.
the travel space. And certain markets, let's be honest. But I think that there's a combination of factors for that. One is, it's like, with this democratization of, say, like information, the proliferation of information,
Mhm.
whilst that's good, it's also so overwhelming,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
sometimes it's like, actually, I need that lighthouse in the
Mhm.
storm to kind of go, right, talk to me. I know I can get you to the right place. And it's not just about somewhere you like. How do you want to do it? We're going to open these places up. We've got these relationships with people. You're not going to find these yourselves. AI won't do that for you. This is all the stuff that we're going to, that's going to lift it up there. So one is about the less is more, the, what's that book by Barry Short, Paradox of Choice, right?
Mhm.
And I think the, so there's that role about being able to cut through and help, and the other one is about understanding, going back to stuff I was talking about earlier, really understanding who they
Yeah.
are and connecting that to the right places, and then helping the people in those places delivering the experiences which our team connect to those customers like. So
Mhm.
getting that sorted out. The other thing was, something that came out of COVID was, suddenly people said, well, I really want to travel, but the world is changing
Yeah.
the whole time, and it's not I never want to kind of pick a business based on scaremongering, and we never did this, but we did get people coming on going, gosh, like I want to travel, and not even just because of COVID, but I now realize it's complex, and
Yeah.
if something changes or I want to change my mind, of course, I don't want to be stuck here with that. And so suddenly this idea of this virtual hand holding, like,
Yeah.
don't worry, we've got you 24/7, you're on our watch. You need to change something, change it. If you get stuck somewhere, we got you. There's this sort of almost comfort and security that I can explore the world, because you want people to explore, we want to feel spontaneous, but I can do that knowing that I've got, the sort of the network and the safety net of Black Tomato behind me. That's not only going to provide security, but it's also going to make sure I'm given the opportunity to explore the right places, connect to the right people, have these quite unique or different experiences that I'm not going to get just off doom scrolling on Instagram. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously that sounds like a big pitch for the travel advisor role, but that is what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of people, we've got a lot of new clients coming out of COVID who'd previously been the DIY type of traveler,
Yeah.
saying, I kind of thought about you guys for a while, I'm not sure, but because there's been a lot of kind of change and, and it's up and down, I'm going to try you guys out.
Yeah.
And then they've tried us and said, right, I'm hooked now.
Yeah.
So, and now they can just, send a message to their relationship manager and they're off, and we know them. And then we can keep sending inspiration to them. Like, we saw this, we thought of you. Wow, I'd never found that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does seem to be moving that way. And I think that's great for our industry.
Yeah. And during COVID, it was probably also having someone who's watching ever changing regulations. I mean, nowadays, what we
Yeah.
alluded to in the beginning with what's happening in the world and constantly changing, someone keeping an eye on safety and what's happening everywhere, having someone who has your genuine interest at heart.
Yeah, it was. I mean, COVID was wild because, there was something like a place would open up. It's like, oh, you can go there, but there'd be a window.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, well, do you know when, is that going to be open forever? Well, we don't know.
Right.
Because, and you'd have places that would open up and then 3 weeks later, they'd be into another lockdown.
Yeah.
So there was a whole kind of juggling act. I think the other thing is also just the kind of stuff that we do and a lot of travel guys do. It is genuine kind of really kind of bespoke, experiential, and based on relationships with place and people. Like, it's not something we're not just we're not a hotel booking for, like,
Yeah.
I can get that, if I get why, if you're online and you want to book your hotel and flights, of course. But if you're looking to do something truly unique, and immersive, and that yes, does include amazing hotels, and we have fantastic relationships with lots of hotels around the world that we produce lots of business for, but then take you further and connect it up, then that's not something that's where you're going to want to speak to an expert and have someone craft something that's absolutely like spectacular and just for you.
And shockingly, we're starting to approach the end of the year. What trends in travel are you guys predicting for 2025? Is there hot destinations that you're looking at, or what do you see coming up for next year?
Yeah, there's a few, and it's always interesting because I think there's some trends, for instance, last year that we were talking about that's still relevant, and I think will continue to be will grow. So one of those particularly is around pursuit of silence, and people looking for, and we call it like looking for genuine tranquility, and this is almost as an antidote to the kind of the mania that we live in day to day, and going to places where there is genuine disconnection. I don't mean like a digital detox. I mean where you're only hearing, there's no white noise, and it's just the sound of nature, and you go and read, you just go with your thoughts. And I don't mean the silent retreats, which are great, but that the connection that has been proven between that and your mental health benefits is so big. And the connection between going to places that are silent and helping you get better sleep. So I think there's some really interesting product experience we live around that. So that's one area that I think will keep growing. We're seeing a lot around what we're calling like challenger travel, where people are looking to have adventures and challenges together. And there's a bit of see in the moment in this, but again, I think travel so often is like an antidote to your day to day. I think again, even without you realizing whether you're traveling for that. I mean, the most obvious one is people want to go away to get sunshine. If you don't live somewhere that's sunny, and vice versa, if somewhere that's sunny, you long to go somewhere that's snowy and cold. So that's always been there, if you like. But what we're also seeing is we're seeing groups of people, and that includes families, going, right, let's get together and go and do something that challenges us and we can achieve together. And because I think day to day, it just feels everything. although it's not sugar and chew, everything does feel like it's on the plate for you, right? It's everything's there in an instant. It's there at the click of a button or the push of a screen, and people are looking for things that kind of you have to earn a bit more,
Mm.
right? And we basically have seen people come together going, look, we want to go and do a rafting trip down the Peruvian Amazon, or we want to go and walk this trail in Sri Lanka, or there's an amazing pilgrim's trail in Japan, or we want to do a mountain biking challenge down the slopes of Mount Kenya, and it's actually about earning, this right to kind of enjoy yourself, and also having these experiences together where you then look back and go, do you remember we did that
Right.
together? What a thing we did,
Right.
and that is something that you then hang on to, you remember, you get inspired from. So yeah, we're seeing that. So that's quite interesting. People coming together to take on challenges in some really magical parts of the world. And then the other one I mentioned is this one we're calling Bear Witness. And I think Bear Witness, it means going and traveling to see amazing natural phenomena happening.
Mm.
I think again, it's always happened. I think sometimes it's right place, right time, but I think we're tying a lot to, we're seeing demand for it, but we're tying it a lot to the rise of solar eclipse travel. So we've been doing quite a lot of, I know we had it this year just gone, but even back in 2019, we've been doing some amazing experiences and camps around solar eclipses. And I think as people have been doing that, they've been going, what else is there out there that, because not on this planet for a long time. So what is it that I need to witness? That's happening, that this planet does. And so we're seeing more and more of that those kind of requests coming in, so they're looking for what it might be. The obvious ones are like wilderness migration or butterfly migration in Mexico, but there's other parts of the world where, you can go at a time of the year where, seasons are changing, or you'll get like incredible kind of torrents of water down certain rivers when a canyon's going to flood. So there's lots of things that are happening, and you go, I've just got to go and see this once in my life and see the world. Some of it is probably changing, sadly, but for the wrong reasons. But yeah, this kind of going out there and witnessing it with the naked eye is becoming increasingly attractive to people.
I really like what you're saying too about the antidote to your day to day. Probably why your
Mm,
pursuit of silence package to me as a New Yorker sounds, oh, just chef's kiss right there. You
yeah,
are from the UK originally. You've lived in London for more than 20 years
yeah.
now, but you've also lived in New York. And I'm from New York originally, and I've lived in London. I'm curious your impression of New York City, because for me, living in London is so much better than living in New York. And I'm wondering if that's because London is just the superior city, or if there's maybe a grass is always greener situation happening here.
It's so funny because this is a debate I have all the time with my friends in New York, and what my English friends in New York, and then vice versa, and friends here. I Right now also I'm very lucky because I'm in New York probably. We got lots of our team are in New York and Boston and stuff. So I'm in New York probably every 5 weeks. So
Wow.
I get to kind of have my New York
Mhm.
fix, which is great. And so I think I have the best of both worlds. I think if I was going to break it down, I think New York has an energy that is like nowhere else on the planet.
Mm.
For me, that's what I loved. And I think when I moved to New York and we sort of opened the Black Tomato office there, it was me and then just one other person. It was our foray. It was one of those cities that I remember someone was saying to me once when I got there, said New York's one of these cities that if you give yourself to it, it will give itself back to you like
Yeah.
10 times over.
Yeah.
And I really felt that with New York. I felt like, if you were passionate and you wanted to embrace opportunities, it was great. I actually have a Dorothy Parker quote tattooed on my respective wrist, which says always hopeful,
Mm.
which is how she described New York. And so I love that. And I love the energy, the sense that everyone can do well at that time. That might be sort of generalizing a bit,
Mhm.
but I think I loved it. I loved that. And I just think the art and the music and the food and the kind of creative chaos you see in New York is brilliant. But London, has a lot of that. And as someone who has a family now, I love that I can live somewhere, pretty central London, but near a big river with green parks, to be in the middle of Soho, or in in the bars or restaurants of Hackney, in a relatively short time, and so you get that blend. So, and then the history of London is kind of incomparable to the rest of the world. So probably spending a long time really saying that I don't know. But I mean, more like if I didn't have, if someone said, right, you're going to be in one of them
Right.
forever, or that, and you
Forever.
can't go back to the other.
Right.
I mean, I'd be really pushed. I think probably London. I think probably London
Yeah.
because of families. I think
That's it. That's hard, right? It's hard to ever make the
I think
choice because you're like, well, then I'd be never seeing my family in the UK again.
yeah. I think I'd be slightly selfish, but I still have it when I I lived in New York for like best part of 6 years,
Yeah.
but I still have it when I step off playing and I step out of JFK, even though it's crazy and hot and whatever, I still just have that. There's a frisson where I just like, it's exciting. It's just opportunity, and I love that part of it, of New York. And I don't feel like that anywhere else in the world when I get off the plane. And I've met so many amazing people in New York, people I work with, friends, clients. And I think when I first moved to New York, I often tell people it felt like to me it was like an intense MBA on networking
Yeah.
or getting to, or just getting out of your comfort zone. I think I'm a pretty chatty, open person, but you know, there's nothing quite like the challenge of like getting into New York, and you can, I think, progress quite quickly there in terms of creating opportunities and doing things, but only if you're willing to kind of put yourself out there. And for a lot of Brits, sometimes that's not necessarily the most natural kind of approach. I'm generalizing massively,
Right.
and that's not fair, but yeah, it was the first 6 months of my stay there was amazing, and you realize kind of what the opportunities and potential was, and it will forever be kind of a massively important part of my life and my world to me.
Yeah. It's interesting what you're saying too about stepping off a plane because what I realized, I also lived almost 6 years. So we're right around the same amount of time. And I've been back for about a year and a half now. But when I've gone back to London, what I've noticed is I get the same feeling in Heathrow that you get when you land in your home airport. And I never really noticed
Yeah,
that before, but there is something about when you're away for a trip and you get back to your home airport, you have that like exhale happen, like, ah, I'm back. And it was really wild to see like it's not my home anymore, but when I arrive there, that's still how I feel.
and it shows the strength of connection
Yeah.
that it has, and the impression it has made on you.
Yeah.
I took my eldest daughter Minnie to New York for the first time last October.
Mm,
She was 5,
mm.
and it was amazing. She was born in Los Angeles actually, and but it was just amazing showing her. Now there's lots of her, but just she still talks about New York. We're taking her and her little sister Coco there about 2 months time.
Mm.
But it feels like when you go back, I always call it my second home.
Yeah.
Always. And I think I just feel very lucky. I really am lucky that we've built a business and has such strong roots in the United States, and the majority of our client base is in the US
Yeah.
now, and it's growing so quickly, and it's a real privilege, for three guys from the UK who love travel, and that we've been able to kind of grow it in our home country, but also introduce what we do to so many brilliant people in the US, and that we get to kind of work with great people and organize travel for our great clients there.
As someone who's traveled a lot, this might seem like a silly question, but New York and London on the surface, very similar cities. We speak the same language, kind of. I think when I moved there, I didn't expect to have any culture shock because I had studied there. So I had lived there for about 6 months before. And I thought, oh, like, I got this. And actually, I had a lot of culture shock. Did you feel that too when you moved?
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, like my previous, I'd always loved going to New York. I mean, like but funny, the first time I ever went there, I didn't. I think I was like 19 or 20. I was visiting a friend who was working. He was working upstate New York, and so I kind of stayed with him. And it was the middle of August, and I had a couple of days into Manhattan, and it was hot and
Yeah.
sticky. And I was like, I'm not sure. But then I went back over the kind of future years and fell in love a little bit more each time. And then, so I was always really excited about going. But yeah, then it's just a difference to visiting, and then you going, right, I'm here, and just it's the little things, almost like the day to day stuff that you hadn't accounted for, like just whether you're doing shopping, or
Yes.
how you do certain things,
Yes.
and things that you just think, oh well, it would be the same because it's kind of it's a Western English speaking city.
Exactly.
But then I really loved how those nuances and those differences then kind of became part of your
Right.
fabric, and your approach, and then you kind of get Mickey taken out of you when you come back to the UK and you're talking about something or doing something a different way.
Exactly.
But that's kind of, it does show that every place, regardless of language being the same or whatever, every place has its unique and distinct side. And I always used to say this, and I haven't said it for a while, but like, people used to say, well, the world's being discovered. And I'd be like, yeah, but it hasn't always been fully explored and places change. I think you could take anywhere on the planet. I
Yeah.
really think take any city or town of this, and you'll find something of interest, like something that's different, something that you might not like it, but it's going to make you think. And I think, so we don't live, fortunately, I think, in a kind of commoditized, homogenous world. There are so many different things. And even in cities that people think are quite comparable, there are so many differences. And that's the beauty of travel and why you should travel to see those and experience those.
Well, I could talk to you about New York and London all day, but I want to be conscious of your time. We're going to move into the final 3 questions, which I ask everyone.
Okay.
And given what you do for a living, this first one is probably going to be really difficult for you to answer. But what was the best hospitality experience you've ever had?
Yeah. It's like, it's sort of impossible, but there's a couple of things. If I can just break it down, I won't take too long, but it's almost like by kind of age, so I remember childhood memories of one being with my father and my brother walking along a tiny beach in a part of remote Cyprus, and a fisherman with a fresh catch and a little barbecue grill, just shouting to us and just cooked just the most amazing meal of my life. And it was about him, this fisherman, talking to us, and introducing us to what he did. And then, you go forward. I remember living in London, and I remember before Gordon Ramsay became Gordon Ramsay, but when he was Gordon Ramsay, the chef, he had a restaurant on Hospital Road. He still has it there, I think. And I went with some mates. We saved loads of money. We were kind of in our early 20s, and we went and had this meal. And I've never been anywhere like that. And it was a bit stuffy, but actually their approach to service and hospitality was really intuitive. And they had lots of little tricks. And I remember they served this one dish, and at the end they came around and said, "Is anyone still hungry? Because we've got a bit left." And everyone went, "Oh, yeah." And then, would you believe it? Like the way he brought out, it ended up being the perfect portion for everyone. It was just clever. And I remember going, "Oh, it's so intuitive." And then a couple of other things. One was, again, but that was the person that made it. Right. So for me, and then another one was I was in Northern India, and I was doing these village walks where you'd walk between villages and you'd stage snipe in a room in one of the villagers' houses. And they were just incredible people that brought you into their life, into their world. You spent time with them, you cooked with them, and you just became part of the family. And there's not one piece of luxury stuff in the world that could come close to kind of making me feel how welcomed and kind and caring and amazing these people were. But again, there's a common thread. It's the people.
Right.
And then I was in Puglia, which I've been to many times. I got engaged there, I got married there. And there's a good friend of mine, Aldo Mapignano, owns Borgo Ignazia, and he's a great friend. And he put together a little trip for me down there. And there's a place called Il Convento di Santa Maria Constanta. It's a long mouthful, but it's an old convent in Puglia, and it's owned by an English family, the Calpo family. And it's a converted monastery, actually. And the rooms are beautiful, but there's artwork everywhere. And it's just a really eclectic place. But every day they would set up your meal, whether it's breakfast, lunch, in a different part of the building or the grounds. And the chef was really attuned to kind of what you were interested in eating. It was really effortless, not kind of over the top, but just rustic. And the fact they were moving you around. So you felt every time you felt you had this unique experience. And again, it was about the people. So for me, every amazing, and I've got so many things. Iceland is like my second home, and the people I work with there are the best. But everything is about the people, and the best hospitality is from the best people, and therefore hospitality could be all levels.
Yeah.
So that's a long answer for short.
No, but you've transported me, to so many different places and so many fantastic experiences. On the flip side, have you had a bad or the worst hospitality experience that sticks out?
Well, yeah. I mean, sadly, I won't name names. I think there was a period where some hotel groups, opened and had brands that were maybe like sort of aspirant brands, were trying to be very cool, but kind of forgot that ultimately the hotels or all of travel, we're in the business of hospitality. And so, I remember turning up at one. It was in New York, I went to, which it was. I was checking. It just opened, and all the people kind of on reception just didn't really want to hear from you. They were too busy kind of getting caught up in
Right.
themselves. And actually, it was the classic. And it happens in travel where all the people that are working there basically wanted to work there because effectively they wanted to stay
Mhm.
there and actually, or be at that
Right.
place rather than going. Well, actually, you're here to make this place
Yeah.
magical. And sure, come and stay here when you're not
Yep.
working. But it was more like you were kind of. I remember feeling, and a couple of times like that, I was almost like interfering with them just kind of having a wonderful day.
Mm.
And I think, luckily, I didn't see as much of them. I think there was a phase where it was a bit of that, where these really kind of like statement brands, and it was a lifestyle and all this stuff. And I think that's great. But the ones that do that well also have people working there that really get that lifestyle, but then get the
Right.
customer and make that lifestyle actual
Right.
reality in terms of what you're experiencing. Whereas others, it's kind of skin deep,
Yeah.
and then you have the wrong people there who are there for the wrong
Right.
reasons and don't get that ultimately it's
Mhm.
hospitality and it's about making the guest feel fantastic.
Yeah. I can guess where you're probably alluding to, but we're not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it's not that hard to work out, but yeah.
And last question for you, and I think you kind of touched on this in your first answer around people, but what does
Mm.
hospitality mean to you? And is there anyone or any brand other than Black Tomato that you think has truly mastered it?
For me, I'd always talk about it's about creating hospitality is about creating feelings within people, good feelings, and that comes through thoughtfulness. So for me, it's always been hospitality is thoughtfulness that drives feeling,
Mhm.
and if you I don't think you can deliver good hospitality without being
Mm.
thoughtful. And good hospitality is how you make someone
Yeah.
feel. Funny, I know Will, I talked a lot about feeling in unreasonable hospitality. Actually, again, it's
Yeah.
like it's all the conversations we always have at Black Tomato. In fact, there's a I can't say what it is, but we've got a big service and campaign coming out next year that kind of speaks to some of those aspects. And then people that do it well. I mean, God, there are so many. I mean, it's always easiest for me to fully remember recent examples. I think from a hotel perspective, I think there's some, if you look at some of the big hotels groups, I think people like Rose would get it right, I think, in some of their places. I also think actually like Six Senses do it
Mm.
well. I mean, again, I can only reference like a recent example,
Yeah.
so that's probably why it's to the top of my head. But we were staying at the Six Senses in Crown Montana in Switzerland, and they had they came to me and my wife and said, look, we'd love to kind of just organize. They have like a kids kind of wellness program, but they said, look, we just like to organize stuff and do stuff with the girls, my daughters, with that, and then would you be okay with that for us to kind of create some magical
Wow.
experiences? And I said, absolutely. And they, over the course of the week, their members of staff just created the most incredible moments and experiences for my girls, from kind of stuff that was around that rooted in their sustainability stuff, but from making candles to bracelets to like them going spending time in the kitchen with a chef making cookies, and really kind of getting to know this whole world. And it was just incredible. And that was based in thoughtfulness that created these feelings in girls. And they do have it in a lot of those properties, but lots of them do. And I was just trying to think if there's anyone else like kind of in another industry at the moment, I think really gets it. And I don't know. I think like, yeah, there's some of there's some local restaurants in London that I'm really impressed with are doing approaching things. I think some of the airlines are doing good things. I think some are doing great things.
Yeah.
But I do think since we've come out of, well, I'm going to backtrack to that. I think when we came out of COVID, there was a general idea about we've got to raise our game. People, not because people weren't travel, but there's a chance to kind of do better.
Yeah.
And we saw real elevation, I think, in some service propositions. I think at the same time, you saw a bit of corner cutting from some people,
Yeah.
which is like, okay, we've lost money, we don't want to do too much, and I get that, but there was a risk there in terms of that. There, you're kind of eroding kind of core proposition. I think some people still haven't quite um, stopped that, but I think most have, and I think the hospitality world is in, or the world of hospitality world is in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Well, Tom, you're just such a natural storyteller, and I can't thank you enough for your time today, for transporting me to so many places around the world. Just thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on, Kate. I really enjoyed it, and I feel like I could talk forever. But no, it was great to have those questions, and really really enjoy the discussion. Thank you.
All right, everyone, it's time for today's sweet summary, where I break down the key insights and actionable takeaways from today's conversation. That was such an engaging chat with Tom. He has such a beautiful way with words. And I know I've said it a few times, but he really transported me to so many places around the world in that discussion. In addition to sparking my wanderlust, here are a few other things he left me thinking about. First, luxury isn't necessarily about glitz, glamour, or private jets. It's about access and the ability to experience off the beaten path destinations. He spoke about travel as a source for good, that the cost of these off the beaten track adventures is often supporting local jobs and local communities. I was really moved by the image of his girls bringing toys to the community they visited in Morocco. And more than that, by the friendships they formed while they were there. It makes me think of my elementary school. A bit random, I know, but stick with me here. One year, they had a foreign exchange teacher, Mr. Koshi from Japan. Crazy that I still remember him to this day. I was, I think, in second grade at the time. But before Mr. Koshi, Japan was just a place on the map to me, if that. And after Mr. Koshi, I had been introduced to Japanese culture. I had a face and a name to someone from Japan that truly became a friend to the school. And just like I still remember Mr. Koshi to this day, I imagine Tom's daughters will always remember the friends that they made there, and that their friends will also fondly remember the two British girls that they met. As Tom said, travel is truly eye opening. What also stuck out to me was him saying that travel is ideally the antidote to the everyday. Isn't that the truth? When he was talking about family travel in particular, I liked his insight that we don't want to move our day to day just to someplace else. We want to feel things. We want to recharge. We want to be inspired. Potentially, the biggest takeaway for me, though, is around the power of having no playbook. Tom said that when he and his co founder started the business, they didn't come from travel, but they were travelers. What a powerful insight. I love this. And I think it shows in what Black Tomato has created. They haven't bound themselves to industry rules just because this is the way it should be done or has always been done. They were their own target market. And as they evolved as humans, so has their business. So I say, let's stop holding ourselves back just because we don't have quote unquote experience or the right credentials or the seniority yet. Because as Tom's Innovation Council continues to prove, great ideas can come from anywhere.